Heyo, Omni Dogs and Omni Kittens. Welcome to Crime Corner on Omni Dogs Vault, where my co-host Taylor Brown and I talk about crime comic books. Taylor, how's it going?
I'm doing great, and I'm really excited to get back to a good old-fashioned book review. I've had a lot of fun interviewing comic creators, but this is the bread and butter of our show, so I'm excited to talk about a great crime comic, and that is Stumptown by Greg Rucka. And Jess and I's humble opinion, the dynamic duo of crime comics is Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, so I'm always excited to review any books by them. And so there are currently 4 oversized hardcovers or 4 trade paperbacks of Stumptown. And Jess, why don't you tell the audience why you only have the trade paperbacks and not the hardcovers? Well, you actually technically do have the hardcovers.
I have 4 trade paperbacks here. This past summer, I had some books in boxes in the crummy part of my basement, the unfinished part of my basement. And I remember seeing the hardcovers of Stumptown in there, which I've had for at least 5 years or however long it's been out in hardcover. And I go, oh, Stumptown. Okay, I got to read that. So then Taylor brings up, yeah, we should review Stumptown for Crime Corner. I tear my basement apart. I can't find the books. It's not, I did not sell them. I did not give them away. Stumptown was a book I totally wanted to read. I can't find the freaking books. They're in this house somewhere, but they're not in that box, and they were in that box with something else I wanted to read too, and that's gone too. So
your basement must be like a portal to another dimension or something.
Yeah, it disappeared into the Bermuda Triangle, which is known as my basement.
So these books contain some great mysteries, but the greatest mystery is where the hardcovers are. You know how you're a private investigator trying to find those books.
Get Greg Rucka in my house to find those books.
I legitimately thought that the second you finished the last trade, you would find the hardcovers.
Well, I didn't go looking for it. Well, that's probably how I'm going to find them. I'm going to stumble over the box, and it's going to be some out of the place area where I didn't even think to look. But I'm reasonably well organized now where I know. I mean, I saw it in a box. I had it. And it's just not there.
Do you know where they probably are? Remember that picture you posted of that your one grate being lifted up in your house? Your one it's probably shoved down in there.
Yeah, the critter that did that stole my Stumptowns.
The raccoons who live in your attic but vacated whenever the exterminator came.
Right.
Are living in the vets reading Stumptown right now. Well, hopefully you'll find them someday, but at least you have the trades to hold you over until then.
Well, you'll know when I sell Stumptown on the Omnibus Collectors Group, when I sell it for $20 for all 4 paperbacks, that I found the hardcovers.
So we're going to dig into each hardcover individually, but let me give a quick overview of the entire series to kind of whet people's appetite and let them know what it's all about. So Rucka has been very upfront that Stumptown is like a modern-day female-led version of the Rockford Files. He loves the Rockford Files. He loves Magnum P.I. And there's another show I never heard of, Simon and Simon. You ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Heard of it, but he really loves all those shows. He wanted to create like a modern-day, humorous, down-to-earth version of a blue-collar PI. And we followed Dex Perios, who is an ex-Marine turned private investigator who takes care of her brother Ansel, who has Down syndrome. And in her spare time, she solves cases. And like every good fictional PI, Dex has her own demons that are fleshed out throughout the series. She makes a lot of self-destructive choices, and she has a lot of issues that her friends and family keep pointing out to her that she needs to deal with. I really enjoyed Dex as a character. I thought she was very complex. She was very multifaceted. And even though each book is a self-contained case, there is an overarching storyline and character arc that every single book, Rucka continually peels back the onion layers of Dex and shows you more about who she is, and he shows you more of her background. So what did you think of Dex as a character, Jess?
I liked her a lot. I liked her from the beginning, and then the more I got to know her, the more I liked her. Let's make a note that 1 in 100 comic book, well, every day 100 comic books get optioned for TV or movies, and none of them ever come to fruition. This is one of the ones that actually came to fruition. This is the 1 in 100 comic books that actually had a TV show made out of it. This has Colby Smulders, I believe, as the lead. I like her a lot, so I need to start watching it because I bet she does a good job with Dex. I felt like Dex was I'd like more stories of her so I could learn even more. But he did a good job, as you said, of fleshing her out. She does have demons, like everybody does, and it seems like private investigators have more than enough. We haven't really found out exactly why she left the military. She saw action in Iraq and Afghanistan. As far as we know, we don't even know if she was honorably, I think we're pretty sure she was honorably discharged because she still got a picture on the wall. And I think he would have said if she made a bigger deal out of it if she was dishonorably discharged. She kicks ass. She gets her ass kicked a lot. Yeah. She has a really cool convertible, like 65 Ford Mustang, which we'll talk about because it's central in one of the books. And he gives you a good flavor of what Portland, I guess, is like. I visited Portland. I visited Nate Burkholtz in Portland, and we went comic book shopping to 8 stores. So I covered Portland in a day.
They have a lot of comic book stores from what I've heard.
What's that?
They have a lot of good comic stores from what I've heard because that's like comic book creator central. Rucka lives there. Bendis lives there. Joshua Williamson lives there. A bunch of other guys work there.
Well, there's tons of good comic book stores, and Nate and his tiny house in Portland. He has a tiny house.
Oh, he actually does. One of those actual tiny houses.
Yeah, he has a tiny house.
How's he fit his collection in there?
I don't know. I'm not sure how he fits in there. He's taller than I am, and he has a kid and a gal, and and another one on the way. And this isn't supposed to be the Nate Burkholtz show, but I don't know. They're very small. They're tiny. We're talking small. So anyway, Portland, yeah. And we get a flavor in here of the rivalry between Portland and Seattle, especially in one of the books, which I, of course, being on the East Coast, I had no knowledge of, and I'm just generally oblivious of things anyway. So, getting back to your question, Dex, I really liked her a lot. I felt like he wrote her believably, sympathetically, and in a way that you likably.
Yeah, I really enjoy your character. I really want to recommend the TV show to everyone. I'm usually very hesitant to watch network television. I just don't think it's as good as like HBO or Showtime or other things you can watch on Netflix or Hulu. But I really dig this show. Colby Smulders is awesome as Dex. You really get to dig into the characters of Ansel, her brother, and Gray is played by Jake Johnson from New Girl and Into the Spider-Verse. He played Peter Parker in Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, okay.
And he gets a much bigger part in the show. He owns a bar. He has a criminal history. And him and Kobe have a great chemistry together, a great back and forth.
In the book, he appears to have a crush on her, right?
Yes. In the show, they had a romantic history, but now they're just friends.
Oh, okay.
And actually, she has a love triangle of sorts with him and Detective Hoffman, who's actually a man in the TV show, because apparently the character of Hoffman is a character from one of Rucka's novels, and they don't have the rights to the female Hoffman. So they had to make him a male, I suppose. That's how Rucka explained it on a podcast I heard. I heard some people were mad about it, but he's like, they literally couldn't use her because it's tied up in other rights that they didn't own. So it's kind of like a love triangle between her, this detective, and Gray, played by Jake Johnson. And it's really hard for me to find a show with my wife that we both enjoy, and we both love watching that show every single week on Hulu. So you can watch it on Hulu if you want to give it a try. It's a great show. Your wife would actually probably like it. It's like a modern day version of the Rockford Files or Magnum PI.
I loved Rockford Files growing up. I can still hear the theme song in my head.
Yeah, I actually watched a couple last night because I wanted to get in the mood of this book, and I haven't watched that probably in 15 years since I was a little kid, and it still holds up to this day. It's still a fun show.
Well, you had me at Bionic Woman that she was in the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I think the first 2 episodes were actually like a mini movie. I guess they used to do that a lot back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Like the first episode's a big like TV movie, and it stars Lindsay Wagner as the one who comes to bring this case to Jim.
And if it did well, then they'd make a series out of it.
Right. I think they did that for Magnum PI as well. I remember that being a long pilot.
Yeah.
Was there one that you enjoyed more out of the two? Out of Magnum PI or Rockford?
It would be Rockford because I never watched Magnum PI. That came on, I think, a little bit later in my teen years. And there was a period when I didn't watch television at all. That's when I was in college from 77 to 81. And I have a feeling like Magnum PI and Murder, She Wrote and those shows were probably in that time period. I'm not sure.
Like Columbo.
I watched zero television in college.
I didn't watch any TV. That happened to me in college too. That seems to be the common denominator with a lot of comic book fans. You kind of drop off on your fandom for your 4 years of college, and you pick it back up later. I didn't read any comics in college at all.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm on record as saying that I dropped out in 76 when I was 17 and didn't pick it up again until Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. So,
right.
But yeah, I can see how Stumptown would make a really good TV show.
Yeah, if you and your wife are looking for a show to watch, I would check it out. My wife and I rarely agree on any movies or TV shows, and she really enjoys it. I think she likes having a female lead.
Oh yeah, now that might appeal to my wife. I like that, and that might appeal to my wife. So okay, we'll give it a shot.
All right, cool. And I'm really hoping that Rucka returns to this series sometime soon. I love Rucka. I love all of his books. The frustrating thing is he has so many irons in the fire that sometimes there's a big gap in between different arcs of books. Like Black Magic. Please bring me Black Magic as soon as possible.
That is the most important thing in the world, is to bring back Black Magic.
Apparently Nicola Scott's drawing like issue 3 or 4 right now. So apparently we're not issue 3 or 4, issue 3 or 4 of this current arc that they're working on. So hopefully that comes to us as soon as possible, because that hardcover was fantastic. It ended on a huge cliffhanger, and I have to know what happens. And I'm really glad they finally brought back the old guard. I think that second arc is wrapping up pretty soon.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That trade will come out soon. But I'm really hoping that he does another Stumptown. I don't think it's come out for like 3 years or so. But I heard him on a podcast recently say that they plan to bring it back, because you can tell by the end of Volume 4 that her story's not over yet. They're just scratching the surface of who she is and her background. There's a big overarching villain of the story that hasn't really been tied off very well yet. So I heard
Marenko.
Yes. And so Rucka said Volume 4 is very lighthearted and fun, and Volume 5 is going to be very dark. And a lot of these things are going to come to a head. So I'm really hoping he gets back to this sometime soon.
So why don't I show some art from book 1 while you talk about book 1? All
right, sounds good. I'll actually read the summary off the front dust jacket.
That's what I do.
Yeah, to give people an idea of what it's about. All right, so Dex Perios is the proprietor of Stumptown Investigations and a fairly talented PI. Unfortunately, she's less adept at throwing dice than solving cases. Her recent streak has left her beyond broke. She's into the Confederate tribes of the Wind Coast for 18 large. But maybe Dex's luck is about to change. Sue Lin, head of the Wind Coast casino operation, will clear Dex's debt if she can locate Sue Lin's missing granddaughter. But is this job Dex's way out of the hole, or a shove down one much deeper? And so I don't know about you, Jess, but this was by far my favorite volume of Stumptown.
Me too.
I thought this one had the best story and the best art by far.
Agree.
I thought Matthew Southworth, who did the first 2 volumes, did a great job in the first volume, but in my opinion, his work seems somewhat rushed at times in the second volume, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And like Jess already said, every fictional PI gets the crap kicked out of them, and that happens to Dex a lot, especially in this first volume. She gets shot, she gets kicked, she gets punched, a lot of other different things. She's a very capable fighter, though. She's able to really hold her own against these guys who are trying to take her down. My favorite moment of the volume is when Dex is attempting to protect her client's granddaughter, and she points a gun at these hired goons and says, "You put a hand on her, and I let weather into your skull." I love that line. That was so BA. That was so awesome. This series is filled with so many memorable moments like that. And I think Rucka really smartly gives Dex a lot of moments to shine as well as screw up. I kind of view her as like the Indiana Jones of PIs. She's able to take a bunch of horrible beatings, but she'll always get back up again and win at the end of the day. And I think his first arc was a great jumping off point for Dex Perios.
Well, and I agree because it had several different things going on in it. Like one thing led to a dead end, but that dead end, led to another thing. And there were 2 or 3 things going on in this one before it finally coalesced into something towards the very end. You went, oh, okay, now I get it, because it had a lot of things pointing in different directions with a lot of extra characters interested in the granddaughter she was looking for, and why was she what it was granddaughter of the Native American head of the casino that she owed the money to. And that's when we meet Hector Marenko, who's a well-connected, wealthy, multi-billionaire businessman who has his fingers in a lot of evil still. And that's when he gets introduced, and he plays into this too in a very interesting way, I think. This was multifaceted, whereas I think the other 3 were more
straightforward.
More straightforward, which didn't bother me one way or another. I kind of don't mind straightforward, but this one was the more complex one, I think.
Yeah, I think in PI stories and crime stories, the mystery is a lot of times the least important part of the book.
Right.
The most important thing is the atmosphere, the tone, the characters, and he really nails the characters in this first arc. And again, I think Southworth's art is the best in this volume. And so we'll talk about the second volume, and that is The Case of the Baby in the Velvet Case. And I greatly enjoyed this case, but like I said before, I don't know if Southworth maybe he was rushed, maybe he had a deadline to meet. It just seemed like he was cutting corners sometimes. It seems like it wasn't as tight. The pencils weren't as tight as it was the first time. Did you feel that way?
I did.
Especially towards the end of the book. I feel like the first couple issues were really strong, and it kind of started going downhill as it went forward. Maybe that had to do with timing issues or just their scheduling, having to meet a certain deadline. I'm not sure. But do you want to show off art, and I'll read the summary of this one? All right. Dex Perios, the proprietor of Stumptown Investigations, has a new office and a long list of clients she can't take on because of their involvement with crime lord Hector Marenko. So when Mim Bracca walks into her life with an open and shut case of a missing guitar, Dex is eager to get started, especially when the rock star pays her up front. But Dex soon discovers that it's not just a guitar that's gone missing, and she's not the only one looking for it. So this book has my favorite moment of the entire series. And Jess, I don't know if you want to flip to issue 4, because it has the coolest car chase that I've seen in comics, I think.
Is this the horizontal car chase?
Yes, and Southworth flips the pages, and I love the way he sets up this car chase towards the end of the book.
And this is involving her bitchin' ride.
Right. I just thought it was a really realistic car chase that ends in a really funny way that I don't want to spoil on the show. I just thought,
okay, well, then I won't show it, but this is part of the bitchin' car chase.
And I really like how they show panels of the speed increasing. That was really cool, showing you how fast the cars are really going. I think it's really hard to have dynamic scenes of action, especially a car chase, with just these little pictures. I thought Southworth did a fantastic job of showing motion, of showing how intense this scene was. It was really pulse pounding and exciting. And that was by far my favorite moment of the entire series.
Okay, I don't want to show any more because that'll give it away.
But I think the end of that car chase plays back into the end of the book, which is hilarious.
Yeah, very.
Because the thing about Dex, it's kind of the same as Jim Rockford, that they always land on their feet, but they never come out ahead. In a way,
they're always
breaking even
backwards when they land on their feet.
Right, they're always breaking even in a way.
Yeah.
So that's the interesting thing about Dex. When things seem to be going well for her, she's always kind of leveled out, and something bad happens to her in a funny way, and it kind of puts her back on the playing field that she was when the book started. So I thought this volume was really good. The case was interesting. My only complaint was the art at times wasn't as clean as it should have been.
I agree with all of what you said.
All right, do you want to move on to the next volume?
Yeah. Now this volume has a big art change. A different artist comes on board.
Justin Greenwood.
Yeah, and it's not bad art, but it's very different art. And it involves something I don't care about at all, and that is soccer. So apologies to all the people out there who love soccer. It's the most popular sport in the world. I get it. I'm not a fan. But this book's all about soccer, or football as they call it over everywhere else but the United States. But it centers on a football rivalry, intramural football rivalry between Portland and Seattle, and then the real rivalry in MLS, apparently, between Portland and Seattle. They're apparently so diehard soccer fans there that they're worried about hooliganism and people, being hooligans and acting like idiots, and they're trying to keep it family friendly and, take your family to a soccer game, and they don't want hooliganism to break out. And this is probably the most, I guess, straightforward. Well, is this the most straightforward? I don't want to say it's a one-note book, but it feels like it's more straightforward.
It's definitely the simplest case of them all.
Yeah.
Just to be honest, this is probably my least favorite of all the four. It's not bad, but it's not great. I think it's good. I think it's solid. But I just didn't like you said, I didn't really attach to the case very much. I'm also not a big fan of soccer, so maybe that just didn't appeal to me very much. I just didn't really think it really needed 5 issues to explore this storyline. It could have been maybe a 2-issue story. I just didn't really seem like it was worthy of 5 issues. But even though I didn't connect with the case very much, I think that the character work in this volume is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think you really get a greater glimpse of who Dex is and what her issues are in this book.
And her relationship to her Down syndrome brother, which I thought was written very, very well, very realistically. And she's the only one in her family who cares for her Down syndrome brother. Her mother, father, and sister all bailed on him, and she's the one that has the loving relationship with him.
Right, and I've heard Rucka say that his older sister has Down syndrome, so I think that's why he has such an insight into that brother-sister relationship. So I'm sure that kind of helps him to be able to write that in a really realistic way, which I really appreciated. And I really love on the TV show that Ansel, her brother, gets a really starring role, and he's an actor with Down syndrome, and he's fantastic. He's great. I think he does a really fantastic job, which I think is a really smart and inclusive choice that you don't see very much on television. So I really, really am glad that they were able to find an actor that could really fill out that role and really be a star in his own way. And so I'll read the summary real quick as Jess keeps showing art. We already kind of know it centers around soccer, but Dex is back on the case, but this time it hits close to home. When one of her dearest friends is brutalized following a Portland Timbers match, Dex is determined to get to the bottom of the attack no matter who stands in her way. With the help of a Seattle PI, C.K. Barnes, Dex might just stand a chance of finding the assailant without breaking too many laws of her own. And I really like the dynamic between her and the other PI, CK.
Mm-hmm.
They're constantly pointing out the reality that Dex needs help. She needs to talk to someone. She needs to stop stuffing down her anger and her other issues and really face her demons. And I really thought that was an interesting dynamic between both of those PIs. Because most of the time, Dex works by herself. And in this volume, Dex is a partner that she works with. So I want to say that the story didn't grab me, but the character work was great in this arc, which I think is why I enjoyed it as much as I did, even though the mystery wasn't great, in my opinion.
Right. In my opinion, this was very good as opposed to fantastic, which some of the other ones were. And very good Rucka is a lot better than a lot of the best work. So, I mean, I still enjoyed it. I was interested enough that I wanted to know the culprits. I wanted to know who was behind it. And I mean, he does a good job of letting us know that. And I thought it was, I can't say if it was based on the NFL or Major League Baseball, if it would have grabbed me more, but it actually gave me real insight into the rivalry just between the two towns, Portland and Seattle. They must not like each other very much.
Well, as Americans, we're so just focused on football and other sports. I don't think we realize how massive soccer is and how much greater their devotion is to soccer or football than it is with our American football. like there's actually violence that breaks out in other parts of the world because of soccer, and like these people who are really devoted to their teams so intensely. It's not just like a fun activity; it's like part of their life.
Well, let's point out that violence breaks out at American football too. There's
Oh yeah,
Philadelphia has in Veteran Stadium used to have their own judge and lockup, so you could take the drunk fans, charge them, and throw them in the pokey in the stadium. So that's Philadelphia. For my Philadelphia fans, you know what I'm talking about. Philly baseball and Philly football are notorious for their nutty, crazy, violent fans. So
I live in Pittsburgh, so I'm no stranger to really dedicated fans with the Steelers and the Penguins. The Pirates, they're the worst right now, so nobody cares about them. But yeah, I don't want to offend our international viewers. I'm not trying to say that we as Americans are great. That's not what I'm saying. But soccer engenders a certain devotion I don't think other sports have as much. I think some fans are just really into that sport. I think it was interesting to see this insight into soccer and just how big of a issue hooliganism can be.
Yeah.
How they want to squelch that.
Right. I agree.
So international viewers, don't get upset.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. We love you. And you're great people, so don't hear me saying anything bad against you, because I'm not. So yeah, solid book, but it was probably my least favorite of the four of them. But it's still good.
Right. Still worth reading.
Oh, for sure. And there's the fourth volume, which is The Case of the Cup of Joe. And I thought this had a really interesting central mystery, and it was funny. It had a lot of humorous moments in it. It was very lighthearted, even though it had some darker moments as well. But do you want to show off the art again, and I'll read?
Yeah.
Our last summary of the night. All right. Portland's best private investigator, Dex Perios, is back, and this time the case is a real grind. When she picks up a simple assignment to escort a package of highly prized coffee beans, Dex has no idea that she's stepping into the web of the barista mafia.
Yeah.
I love that term. And eccentric billionaires with no compunction about using force to get the most coveted coffee around. And to top it all off, her sister is in town. Yeah. I just thought this mystery was so interesting about how this really famous and rich coffee store owner, I think he sold his business actually, but he's trying to really popularize this new brand of coffee. It's these beans that are imported from overseas where they feed them to cats and the cats poop them out. I guess that gives them extra flavor or something. And that's something that really rubs Dex the wrong way. And she continually points that out. And apparently that's actually a realistic thing that actually happens in real life. He didn't just make it up for the book.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently there's like a cat crap coffee.
I know that in Vietnam, there's like, there is some kind of coffee that's famous from Vietnam that is covered in dung by the dung beetle or something. Or maybe it's pooped out by monkeys or something. I can't remember now. I read that article years ago. But yeah, it's not a made up thing. Definitely there's something about exotic coffee pooped out by civet cats on this guy's personal farm overseas where he they don't force feed the civet cats. What word am I thinking of? It's done organically.
Humanely?
Sorry?
Humanely?
Humanely, yeah. And I, of course, love this because I love coffee. Now, Taylor does not. I love coffee, but I couldn't. I'm more like Dex is in this book, where she just drinks a cup of coffee and it's coffee. And the coffee maker, the coffee importer, can tell the difference, like with fine wine and things like that. So there's definitely a palate for coffee. I don't have it, but I know it's out there where you can sip it and tell the difference and know the aroma and everything. I'm not that guy, but I appreciate the fact that people go to great lengths to make fantastic coffee.
I love that idea of the barista mafia. That was really funny. How Dex is like, what are you even talking about? The barista mafia. But all these people who are really intensely trying to get a new brand of coffee to get over on the other competitors. And I love the scene where Dex is being held up by these two barista mafiosos, and she holds them at gunpoint, and she makes them strip and lay naked on the ground. She throws their keys in the bushes. I thought this was a hilarious scene.
It was great.
Because the first time she meets them, she just holds a finger in her pocket and acts like she has a gun. And the second time it happens, like, oh, we're not going to fall for that again. And she shoots out of her pocket and says, I actually have a gun this time. That was a great scene. I just thought this book had so many great moments in it.
Yeah,
it was probably my second favorite. It's probably my second favorite out of all of
them. Yeah, the second one was the guitar one. Yeah, I'll say this one was my second favorite too.
Because Justin Greenwood's art was a big jarring change from Matthew Southworth, but I still think it fits the tone of the book and it still looks good. It was just a jarring change going from book 2 to book 3, but once you get past it, it's fine. It's not a big deal. And it was really cool seeing the background family stuff with Dex's sister Fuji. I think that's what her name is, right? Fuji.
Fuji and Dexedrine are the names that the parents gave their daughters.
And then Ansel with their brother, so they all have very interesting names. I think her name was like Dexedrine Callisto Perios or something. I forget what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay. And it kind of ends on a weird note. It was a good, solid issue, but the last issue was like a one-off storyline about her on a stakeout, which I enjoyed, but I didn't really understand why it was wrapping out this volume. But it was still a solid story. Did you like that story?
I love that story because it was a stakeout, as you say, and it was about a husband. I'll just say it was about a husband that thinks his wife is cheating on him, and when we find out the real thing that Dex is staking out and finds out about, it was an interesting reveal, and I guess he just had an extra issue that they decided just to stick in here. It didn't bother me. It was just an extra issue and fun to read.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. I was just surprised when I got to it. I was like, oh, I thought this would tie into the other story, but it was still a solid issue. I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, very much so.
So I would say overall, Stumptown is a very solid and entertaining series that is a must-read for fans of Rucka and crime in general. It's not my favorite Rucka book. I think Lazarus and Black Magic are probably my favorites. And man, Gotham Central is definitely up there. There's too many good Rucka books to really decide.
Yeah,
I think Lazarus is still my favorite by far. But this is a solid series that I think you should have on your shelves. And I know, Jess, I don't want to brag, but Oni Press really outdid themselves with these really nice hardcovers, which you technically own them. They're technically in your house somewhere.
They are. They're in the vortex.
Yeah, they're in the vortex somewhere, but they're still there. So I would recommend these hardcovers, or if you want to pick up the trades, it seems like Jess enjoyed those as well.
Yeah, wait 2 weeks and I'll find my hardcovers and you can buy the trades from me. Because I will absolutely fall over them, break my ankle, and it'll be the Stumptown books.
All right, so I'll go to my movie recommendation for this show. And my movie recommendation for fans of Stumptown is the directorial debut of Ben Affleck. It's 2007's Gone Baby Gone. And this movie is based off the phenomenal novel by Dennis Lehane, who Jess and I both enjoy. If you're looking for a great crime writer, look no further than Dennis Lehane. He has written masterpieces like Mystic River, Shutter Island, which I believe you've read both of those, correct?
Oh, Shutter Island is so good.
I love that movie. You ever seen the movie?
I didn't because it came out right after I read the book, and I said, well, I already know what's going on. So
it was directed by Martin Scorsese, though.
Sorry?
It was directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
I know, but it came out like weeks after I read the book, and so I just haven't seen it because I already knew everything. But time has passed enough so that I could see it now and enjoy it.
Yeah, you should definitely check that movie out. It's definitely a really good movie. And Lehane's first works was a PI series starring a character named Patrick Kenzie and Angela Gennaro. It follows two private eyes in Boston who end up getting married. But you really need to check out those books if you're into crime novels. Anyway, this movie is based off the fourth book in the series, which follows their search for a young girl who's been kidnapped out of her bedroom, and no one knows where she is. She's missing for a very long time. They're trying to find her.
Have you said the title yet?
What? Yeah, Gone Baby Gone.
I don't think you said the title.
I think I did.
Oh, okay.
So it's Gone Baby Gone. For those of you who maybe if I didn't say it, I'm sorry. It's Gone Baby Gone.
I think we went off on a tangent. And
okay. So it's Gone Baby Gone. It was written and directed by Ben Affleck based on the Dennis Lehane book. And I think Ben Affleck is a great director. He directed this. He directed The Town. He directed Argo, which won for Best Picture
several
years ago, which is a really good movie. Did you ever see The Town?
I don't even know if I've heard of the town.
It's about Boston armored car robbers.
Ooh,
It's a really great crime movie with Jeremy Renner's in it as well.
okay.
That's a really, and John Hamm from Mad Men's in it as well. But anyway, we're talking about Gone Baby Gone. It's a great movie. It's a really brutal and a heart-wrenching watch that'll really leave you guessing, asking yourself some really serious questions. The end of the movie is like a gut punch, and it really leaves you just thinking about life and our society and how we punish criminals. It has a great cast. It includes Ben Affleck's brother, Casey Affleck. I don't know if you've ever seen him in any movies, Jess. He's a phenomenal actor. It has Ed Harris, it has Morgan Freeman. It's a great, well-rounded cast. I highly recommend this movie for those of you who like PI stories and like Stumptown.
Is it more of a gut punch than the ending of Mystic River? Because that's a gut punch. That's
That is a gut punch.
That's a feet punch. I mean, that's a body punch, the end of that movie.
I would say maybe Mystic River has a bigger gut punch, but this one's definitely it leaves. I remember leaving the theater having a really good discussions with my family members about what happened and what we thought about what happened. I think really good crime movies can really lead to good discussion about our society. And I really think that movie does that very well.
Okay.
So it's a very, really sad ending, but it's really solid. I think you'd greatly enjoy it, Jess, especially since you like Dennis Lehane.
Yeah, I do.
And also check out Shutter Island because that's also a great movie.
I will.
All right, so let's get to our music recommendations to close out the show, and I'll let Jess go first.
Okay, the first one you will not have heard of because I listen to ambient music that is imported. Some of you will have heard of it, but it is Vanessa Wagner, Inland Versions, and it's a bit of an EP, extended play album. I collect vinyl. But these books were a quick read, and so this went along with book one, Vanessa Wagner. And then I listened to just some generic ambient upstairs, but then book four, I don't even know how to pronounce this, but it's awesome. Yogtze. This is another EP, and it's great ambient music.
Does it have tractors running in the background?
Yeah, I think so. And then you've got some kind of Spanish station wagon taxi or something on the front. I just listen to this music, I before I buy it, I listen to it online. And if I dig it, I say, okay, that sounds mellow enough that I can read to it, but also interesting enough so that if I'm filing away books, it'll still keep my interest. So, I mean, I don't want just sleepy time music. I want interesting music that captures my attention too. But I admit it's not well known at all. And I stand by that.
I'll have to check out the tractor ambient noise.
It's not tractor ambient noise.
All right, so as you all know, I'm a huge fan of jazz, and Greg Rucka is a big fan of jazz, and I really love following his Instagram page because he always posts the newest records that he bought at the record store. And me and him, I think me and him share a similar favorite, and that's Thelonious Monk, who's the greatest jazz pianist of all time. I guess it's subjective, but I think he's one of the best jazz pianists of all time. And my favorite
Is he your favorite jazz pianist of all time?
Yes, he's my favorite.
Okay, good.
But he's also recognized as one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So you do know who he is?
Come
I don't know.
I know the music just because I don't listen to it all the time. I know.
I wouldn't know anything about it if I didn't listen to jazz. So he is by far my favorite, and I listen to Monk's Dream a lot. That's one of his albums. I listened to Monk's Dream as I read a lot of these Stumptown hardcovers. And I know he's also one of Rucka's favorites. And if you like jazz, follow Greg Rucka because he has so many great recommendations. He's posted a lot of albums that I didn't even know about, and I'm really grateful to him that I was able to find these albums that I greatly enjoy. But Thelonious Monk is by far my favorite jazz musician, and I think you should really check out his album Monk's Dream as you read Stumptown.
Nice. So do we give a grade at all to these books, or did we just want to say we really enjoyed them, we think you should read them?
I mean, overall, I would give them an A. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think we're grading all of them together.
I think Lazarus is kind of a high bar to compare anything to.
And Black Magic, too.
Yeah, Lazarus is one of my all-time favorite books ever. I listed it in my top 11/10, 12, whatever, however many I ended up saying were my favorites. Lazarus is absolutely my favorite. So I don't even know if it's a fair comparison, but these books were great and really worth a read as excellent crime books and mystery stories.
And unfortunately, they're not on Hoopla, so you either have to read them digitally on Comixology or just buy the hardcovers and trades. I personally recommend buying the hardcovers. I think they're very much worth it. And this is the second time I've read them. I enjoyed them on a reread, so they work well with rereads as well.
Good.
So I encourage you. We both give it an A. They're all fantastic, even though we like some better than others.
Right.
And so
Good.
the next Crime Corner is our big episode, isn't it, Jess?
It is?
Yeah.
Is that Daredevil?
Yeah, it's our big read-through of Bendis and Brubaker's Daredevil with a special guest, Nerd in the Know, Tim Burnham, who's our resident Matt Murdock scholar, who's going to take Jess and I to school.
Right.
We're really excited about that. So please keep your eyes peeled for that episode, which will be coming in March.
Yeah, we may do something before that, as I am not struggling, but I mean, that is 4 Omnis. And you've got me reading Batman Black and White Omni for Better Days in the Batcave.
And Jess likes to refer to me as his slave driver, so.
Yeah. So there may be something small. There may be something small.
It's still coming up in March, though.
Okay, yeah.
And Jess and I are hoping to do Crime Corner twice a month now, because we both love it so much.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to do twice a month. It'll always at least be once a month, but we're hoping to do twice a month if possible.
Right.
Because we both enjoy crime books so much. And there's so many good ones to read that we need to start picking up the pace.
Yeah. That's why I think we need to do like a small thing before we do Daredevil.
We'll talk about it right after this show ends.
Which is a good way to end this segment. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We always respond to comments. And please give us a like. Please subscribe. And peace and love. Peace and love. Thank you for watching.
See you guys.